we've got time for just a few questions and a roving mic somewhere, well, maybe in my hand. So we're starting here.
Hello, I'm Amanda Cheesley. I'm the lead for long-term conditions and end-of-life care at the Royal College of Nursing. I absolutely think these stories are so vital for us to remember how important families are. We've talked a lot about hospitals today. I'm a district nurse, and when you have the privilege of looking after people in their own homes, you're a guest there, and the relationship is very different. And being under people's scrutiny, including the dog and everybody else, is the norm. And I think we not just with children's services, but also from community services, we can learn how to work with families in a way that we are merely a passing influence rather than the only thing that's important. And I think, going back to what Gillian said, also what Jane said earlier, this is about educating people. It is about changing mindsets, and we have to start very early on about the importance of family. And I think somewhere along the line, not just in nursing, but also people's families are not close by to the same extent that when I grew up. And what you were saying about Wales is, you know, grannies and grandpas and aunts and uncles aren't nearby, and so there are a lot of people who are on their own, and it's very difficult for them to get family members to come and see them. And we must remember that if somebody's travelling for 300 miles and then has to go back 300 miles, they must be allowed to be part of that care and not be excluded. So the stories that we've heard today and the opportunities that we've got to change things and do things better, we have to grasp. And you being an ambassador is terrific. And I think we all should be ambassadors, because the good and the bad is really important. And we mustn't concentrate on one or the other. It's about making sure that we make it all good. It wasn't a question, it was just a comment.
Is it me? Zoey Harris. I'm an ex-carer. I cared for my husband who had dementia for 5 years at home, and then he spent the final 13 months of his life in a care home. And as a result of that experience, I developed a range of very simple wall charts to help communicate his needs and preferences, because I realized there was no way staff had time to go to the office and look at the care plan on a regular basis. And it was when hospitals started getting interested in those charts that I realized that their challenge was in collecting information about somebody in the first place, particularly for those 10 or even 20 or more % that Rowan's talking about, of people who don't have family or carers available to come and explain what somebody's needs and preferences are. So I'm now developing something online called My Care Matters to enable people to create a record of those things so it can be available to hospitals straight away. And I suppose my observation is more back on the people that don't have family available. The brilliant thing about John's campaign is that it's raising awareness of the importance of understanding somebody's needs, but we need to find ways of ensuring that those people without anybody to shout for them, as it were, are also given the best care.
Should we ask our panellists how they deal with that? How do you deal with people who don't have anybody?
It depends on the situation and the problem, doesn't it? I mean, obviously, if you've got some of the I don't want to use the word burden, but if you've got some help with a lot of other people, the resource that you do have in-house, and that might be the staff, it might be chaplaincy, it might be advocacy, Age UK, and so on, are more available. We have volunteers, and they can be used. And Liz Sharamblas is our volunteers expert, as well as being an expert on other things. Obviously, if there's a big decision to be made, there are legal provisions around having independent mental capacity advocates. In our research, we actually found that family carers don't just stick with their own relative; they actually do a lot of help with other people as well.
Yes.
I would absolutely agree with that, and I think there's also usually people who are vulnerable are in and out our system often, But what we're not very good at doing is we treat each individual episode as a single episode, and we don't see that as a continuum of care. So there may be, for someone who doesn't have family support, an opportunity for us to do a bit better on if there are things that we've discovered in a first journey, that how we share that across not only a hospital journey but also back out into the community.
I'm eating into lunch a bit, as it were, but is there one more question, perhaps? One over here.
Hello, my name is Victoria Lyons. I'm one of our regional Admiral nurses, and it's more of a comment really than a question, I guess. But what I've been thinking about is that actually it's about recognising the important contribution that carers make. You made the comment about the nursing staff, and I work a lot with nursing staff, and they often do say, like exactly what you're saying. It's that feeling that people are watching you or observing what you're doing. But actually, I work a lot with carers, and what they say to me is, my way of caring might not be the way the nurses are going to see things, or how. So it's that kind of, they feel just as insecure about it as well, actually. And I know in my family, when we've been in hospitals, we've kind of been thinking, oh, does the nurse know best? Does the doctor know best? But we think we know best. And it's about that partnership and valuing each other's opinion and recognising the contribution that each party makes. So I just think carers often feel as vulnerable about it as the nurses do as well, actually. So, thank you.
You were very polite not to mention safeguarding. I mean, every admission to hospital has a safeguarding referral made by the ambulance service. So there is a lot of nervousness around the system, and I think one of the privileges of being a consultant is you're allowed to be a bit naughty sometimes. And we are trained to have the confidence to challenge things that don't make sense or are disproportionate or are too system-centered rather than person-centered. So I think we do need to improve the confidence of people in the system to take sensible decisions. And you can't imagine anyone really being struck off or being sued because of they've taken a sensible decision in good faith. And I think we need to have quite a supportive culture around that. And there are institutional ways, Schwartz rounds and so on, that we could use more in order to try and engender that feeling of confidence.
Did you want to say anything, Gillian?
Yeah, I think just on that point, we very much in our hospital have a saying called ask for forgiveness, not for permission. So, and I think that would be something in this case, that you just do it anyway and then ask for forgiveness after.